by the invitation of the organizers and the management to have me here. And I'll do this as much as fast as I can to discuss some of the most essential things in what we call Ramadan fasting for Muslims. Now, it was interesting to see some of the words which was given by Professor, where he talked about the university welcoming intercultural diversity. And right throughout my presentation, you will see the intercultural diversity I have collected, because I believe that this is currently the most important theme or the most important need which we all have. And where we Sri Lankans can actually add more color is through the youngsters, through different colleges, institutes, where we can mingle with each other to maintain the same spectrum of the rainbow. Like we say, the rainbow is beautiful because it's of different colors. So when different races get together and help each other like this, we can actually go to the next level. I'll speak about the cover page later. Straight away going on to the most important things of what we are going to talk about here. So first of all, I know that there are some of the Muslim brothers and sisters here. Also there are some non-Muslims. Can I know from the non-Muslim folks, how many of you all who have tried fasting? Can they raise up their hands? From the non-Muslim brothers here or sisters here, have anyone tried fasting? They can raise up their hands. If you think you've not fasted, I will prove it wrong, and I will say that you have fasted in your life. You have fasted. And you know how do you fast? The definition of fasting given by doctors is where you are abstaining from food. You are abstaining from food for about 8 to 12 hours. If you are abstaining from food 8 to 12 hours, you are categorized as a person who have fasted. And all of us, you and me, have waited without food for about 8 to 12 hours. You remember any time like that? Possibly in lectures? I don't know. But at least like this. Because I came to SLIIT, I purposely took a picture with the person sleeping with the laptop. Maybe you guys have experienced this in class or at home, I don't know. But if you sleep for 8 hours without eating anything, there you go, your body has already agreed for fasting. So don't think that this is something hard, this is something very simple and easy, prescribed by other faiths as well. Amongst the Buddhist monks, if they are refraining themselves from certain things, refraining themselves from food, that is also part of fasting. If you take by the Hindu scriptures, if they are fasting in important days like Mahashivaratri or things like that, that is also taken as fasting. For certain reasons, the Jewish communities or the Christians in different parts of the world, they are abstaining from food, that is also part of fasting. So all of us, all in all, have this fasting concept together. And this is a quote from the Old Testament in the chapter of Mark 9 to 14. It's a long story here where Prophet Jesus was approached by a person who said that there is a person out there, he is very weak and something is wrong with him. Can you cure him? And before that they said, before we approached you, we went through your disciples, but your disciples couldn't cure him. So Prophet Jesus said, my disciples couldn't cure him? He said, yeah, your disciples couldn't cure. Okay, right, I'll come and cure him. And Prophet Jesus, may peace be upon him, came and cured him. And after he cured him, he of course was totally cured. After he was cured, what happens was, Prophet Jesus goes to his disciples and says, why couldn't you cure? Why didn't you do like this? And Prophet Jesus goes upon to say that why he could not do that is because Prophet Jesus, in this last area we can see, however, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fast. Prophet Jesus had the ability to cure people because of his ability of his self-realization of what he is doing. And he got it because he was fasting. So this is a chapter from the Bible itself taken in the importance of fasting. Now let us see what do the Muslims do when it comes into fast. So from morning till evening, we are abstaining with lot of things, and the outward look is that it looks like we do not eat and drink and all. But mostly, righteously said, we don't eat and drink is actually 1% or 2% or 5% of fasting. There are 90% of other stuff which we also do not do. There are about 90% of other stuff we should be actually abstaining from. So food and drink on the face level is the main element which you have to stop. And why do we stop consuming food and drink? Is because of mainly these three reasons which we will go into a little bit detail later. First of all, the compassion for those who are less fortunate. In the world, the biggest crisis, one of the biggest crises is the food crisis. There have been millions who have been starving, millions who have died because of the ability of they not having food. At least by us, by anyone, he does not to fast, he does not have to be a Muslim, he can be anyone. At least when you are fasting, you know the hunger which that person is having in the road. You know the hunger of a beggar who has not eaten for 3-4 days. You know the hunger of probably people who are less fortunate, who do not have anything in their houses. This is the most important thing which Islam first of all teaches. Learn to fast. The basic thing, at least you will get to know about how others are feeling. The second thing is for self-control and willpower. Self-control, which I'll come into the next thing. How many of us have got this habit of smoking? And while you smoke, at least when you are fasting, there is no value of fasting if you guys are smoking. So there is an ability of a barrier being put there while you are going to fast. And also for the purifying of the body as well as the soul. When someone is in hunger, someone is less going to think about all unwanted stuff. You know, most of the time, lot of people get into a lot of other stuff is when they have a belly full. When you eat a belly full, your mind works in a different way. But when you stop eating food like that, you control yourself like that, actually it is easy to focus. Easy to focus on work, easy to focus on studies, easy to focus on other stuff, easy to focus on helping others, etc. So the most important thing is you have to self-purify yourself. And the Prophet said to us, most of the people who are fasting from our community, if they are only going to restrain from food and water, they will only get the benefit of being hungry. That's it. But there is something more than that. Try to achieve more than that. Try to think about others. Try to help others, like what is being done today here, preparing a meal for people to break fast. It is considered as the most righteous, the most preferred act by our Lord, giving someone to eat. Giving someone. And that concept is also there in Buddhism, like what we saw in the Poede. What is this concept of dansal? You are helping someone. You are giving food for anyone. It can be the needy, it can be the rich. Towards a dansal, a rich person will come, a poor person will come. He will be treated equally. That is the exact concept what happens when you give a meal to others. Especially in a concept like Ifthar, like this, what is done. And that is the most important thing. In Ifthar, to have the simplicity. If there is no simplicity in Ifthar, meaning of breaking fast, of course there is no value in this. And what we should abstain is breaking fast like this. This does not count. This is not what our Lord accepts. This is not what any religion accepts. No, you cannot do like this. You are fasting to actually think about the other person's hunger. Are you going to think about the other person's hunger like this? You will die by eating like this. That is not the result of fasting. So fasting is actually of the next level. You eat but reduce and eat. You want to again eat but less. We try to reduce yourself and eat. That's the most important thing. How many of you all have heard of this book? It's one of the most sold books in the last couple of 10 years. Anyone? Anyone? World-renowned author Stephen Covey, who is known as the world's #1 leadership guru, wrote this book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And fasting for us is there are 7 habits, he said, of highly successful people who have. The 7th habit is the most important thing. Can you see this? Sharpening of the saw. Our body has been eating and drinking for almost 12 months. So what we do is we cut short of these 12 months and make it 11 months. And by doing it for 11 months, we are trying to give our body a rest. You know why do we give our body a rest? In order to prepare for the next 11 months. This is called sharpening of the saw. This is where the body needs some amount of rest. There is a story behind what Stephen Covey says here. I'll quickly narrate the story because of the time factor. I'll quickly tell this. There is a person A and there is a person B. A was given a certain axe to go and cut the highest number of trees. Listen very carefully. B was given an axe in the same way to go and cut the same amount of trees in a particular amount of time. Let's say 4 hours. So A was going on cutting trees and A was looking at B and B was resting. And A was going on. The first tree he cut very fast. The second tree was little slower. The third tree was little slower. Soon as he finishes, he looks at B. B is resting. He's not doing anything. And A is thinking, wow, I'm doing my work really well. After the time period was over, A just looked at who had cut most number of trees. It was actually B. You know what was he doing while he was resting? He was doing this. sharpening the saw, getting ready to cut the next tree at the same speed. While the guy in the A side was going on cutting, and he was tired and things like that. Our body gets tired, our body gets lazy, our body gets lethargic when we continuously eat like that. So give our body a rest for that one particular month, and trust me, it works. This is the concept which we use as sharpening of the saw. Because I know about this concept, I ascribe it to fasting. This is something what we highly do in Ramadan. Avoid all unwanted stuff. It can be food, it can be drinks, it can be even a petty argument. Just avoid. The month of Ramadan is not about wasting time. It's mostly to actually mind your own business. That's all about Ramadan. Just do not worry about what's happening elsewhere. Just mind your own self. Then you will get the proper benefit of Ramadan. And some of the reasons why this fasting becomes crucial, I'm going to just discuss about this. You can see the first thing, fight obesity. Anyone knows what's obesity here? Anyone? It's not a Sinhala word, okay? Obesity, magacity, harasity, mesity, vasity. Obesity means to be abnormally fat. Now don't make fun of your friend who is fat if he is fat. Obesity means to be abnormally fat compared to the age, compared to your gender, compared to your weight, compared to your waist, everything, there is an abnormal level. Obesity has become the #1 threat in United States. I repeat, obesity, terrorism is not the #1 threat, by the way. Obesity is the #1 threat in the United States. People are abnormally getting fat. Why they are abnormally getting fat? Going to McDonald's, going to Burger King, there is another joint called Burgers King in Peta. Going to all these places makes you abnormally fat. When is your body going to get a rest? Of course, when you fast. Number 2, benefits from diabetes, heart diseases by controlling food. Ideal if you are having sugar problem. Ideal if you are having sugar problem, pressure problem. This is going to somewhat actually control the health cautions of your body. Helps to fight cancer. A lot of research have told, and I have put an article here regarding that. May help you to overcome addictions. Leave alcohol aside at the moment. How many of our youngsters are addicted for cigarettes? They can't reduce their cigarettes, but trust me, it can be done. For this particular 8 hours, 14 hours, there are a lot of chain smokers who actually stop smoking. See the benefits of what you can do. You can calculate how much of cigarettes you are going to stop and go and collect that money and put in a till and see at the end of 1 year how much you have collected. It's a huge amount of money. I know because I know students who have done this. So there are ways of how this can benefit even financially. Fasting rests digestive system. As I told you, your system is working 24/7 by munching, but there is some rest given to you here. Fasting corrects high blood pressure, as we discussed. These are some of the articles which I've collected. How fasting will help in living longer, if you want to live longer. And this is an interesting campaign which is done in Australia, in Melbourne, in Sydney, where they talked about fasting with people. And not eating from sunrise to sunset, but ask me why. How long do we fast? We in Sri Lanka fast quite less. We in Sri Lanka fast in the time of where India is mentioned here. Do you know that there are people fasting up to 19, 20, 21 hours? A day has 24 hours. There are people who are refraining from all those what I've been discussing for 21 hours. And there are few Muslim communities in places like Iceland who are still doing that. They are like enjoying it. Trust me, once you get used to it, it's so much of fun. This is how it happens worldwide. We are actually in the lowest area of staying or starving ourselves for 14 hours, but our brothers and sisters elsewhere are doing, of course, more than this. So this is something which I like to tell. Fasting teaches us empathy, to think about others. It teaches us to think about others, think about other people's hunger which is there. Now, you can see what type of food is laid in your table. What are you and I going to have today? This picture which I have on my left hand side and my right hand side is the most luxurious iftar these guys are having. The most luxurious, this is the best iftar these guys can have. The worst iftar is they will not have anything to eat. We think about this. So they will not have anything to eat is the worst case. The best is they will drink something like this all together in Africa. This picture was taken in Afghanistan. These little kids were having a tea or water with some dried bread. That's all they have, and that's the greatest iftar actually for them in their life which they consider. Why? Because they are fasting to think about the poor people who are even poorer than them. So what about others? What about ourselves? So this is the most important highlight of what we understand the fasting message which gives us. Fasting, why don't you try it by yourself? So there was one guy who tweeted, actually he's not a Muslim brother, actually I'm already adjusted to Ramadan that I haven't been eating as much as I normally do. You do not have to fast for 14 hours, just fast for 8 hours and see, then increase it, or fast for 4 hours and see, then increase it. You can try it by yourself like that. Ramadan taught me to appreciate things that you really need to in order to live. Living the way beyond me is sadly common these days. So these are some of the things which were tweeted, which I collected. It wasn't terrible at the end of the day when he fasted. Was really was easier than I first feared. For the poor, it's completely normal to live. Now we understand how the poor people is going to be there. Because the poor people eat one meal a day, and fasting is, in other words, in right way, it's about 1 to 1.5 meals a day what we are having. This is a good gesture I saw, which I love speaking about it because I talked to you about the intercultural diversity we have. This happened in Dhaka in Bangladesh. You know who helps people with Ifthar? Not just the other communities. The priests in the Buddhist temple itself, they help the Muslims to break fast. It's a very good gesture which we see. These were some of the photographs taken during one of their sessions, and my cover page also was taken from the same instant. As I told you, the Lord loves the person who is actually giving food for the people who are hungry. And this act, it's a small act. It's a small act, but it is considered as one of the best things which one can do. So these are some of the photographs you can see, how they help to prepare food and things like that. This particular picture is a police officer in India. She fasts, she's not a Muslim. She just fasts with the Muslim, with them, in order to self-control her desires, her self, her mind, her soul, etc. So this is of course open to everyone. You do not have to be a Muslim to do, as I always tell. Anyone can be, doing it. It's even done by the Jewish community in helping others. This is a picture taken by a Jewish person. And you know the problems which we have in Israel and Palestine. But that is again a 1%, 2% or a 5% thing which is going on there. There are lovely, peace-loving Jewish communities in different parts of the world who are helping Muslims even to break fast at most crucial times. Before I finish, if there are any questions you would like to meet me or ask, you can ask me. These are some of the most important things which I just highlighted before I just conclude this talk in another 2-3 minutes. The most important common questions is fasting only for Muslims? I answered that no, it's for anyone. Anyone can do it. Second, will I faint or die without food? Trust me, you won't. Even if you faint, you will again come into consciousness. There is nothing serious going to happen like that. Doctors say you can survive with liquid even a number of days. So you're not going to die, of course, for sure. What is this moon sighting thing? In Ramadan, you know that there is a moon sighting business which goes on. Moon sighting is all about to calculating when is the month starting, like when is January or when is February starting, etc. So like in the Buddhists, they believe that middle of the month is the full moon. So full moon happens in the middle of the month. So in 30 days, if 15th is the middle of the month, we try to get the rough idea of when is the moon supposed to be seen in the beginning. So that's where the moon sighting happens, and it's a big science to see the moon from your own eyes. You cannot use a binoculars or anything like that. It's a science where you try to visibly see, and if you have seen it, it means the month is born and you start it. And when we again see that moon, we have to stop our fast. Why do we see so many beggars in Ramadan? This is the month where a lot of people become quite generous. Because they are hungry, they feel what the poor person is going through. So it is probably the best month where a lot of others can give charity. They go into houses, in asking for stuff. Is this fasting for Muslims compulsory? Yes, it is compulsory, but there are some regulations. Like for example, isn't fasting for such examples. Okay, I missed that point. Let's say, do small kids have to fast? No, they have an exemption. Do old people have to fast? No, they have an exemption. Do the sick people have to fast? No, they have an exception in that. So it is compulsory for everyone. except about 6 or 7 categories of people. Isn't fasting for such others not good for kids or the sick? That's the whole idea what I said. It's not compulsory for all. What happens if one misses a fast depends on how he missed that fast. If he forgot he is fasting, let's say I'm fasting, I forgot that I'm fasting, I have a habit after one period, I go and drink water and I just went and drank. After drinking, I remember that I'm fasting, your fast won't break. But if someone purposely goes and drinks, his fast breaks. He has to actually count another day for that fast and give some amount of money for beggars for missing that fast. It is that serious when it comes to missing a fast. So why do we fast? For all those reasons, the main 3 reasons coming into that: to self-constrain or to self-discipline ourselves, to think about the poor and to be compassionate for others. So this is my last slide, which I love to post, where one of the most popular priests in the Asian region, the Dalai Lama, he visited a medical college. He took a picture with some of its medical students. You can see the faces of the people here. Do you see that they have any problem with anyone? You know, they don't seem like they have any problem with anyone. This is the kind of culture, attitude, love, tolerance, which I believe we Sri Lankans can do. And the best mode of actually communicating is this towards the youngsters, so that we actually learn something out of it. And Ramadan is the month where we give up on all unwanted stuff. So we give up of any hatred, any issue we have, and just unite for the sake of the peace of this country. So I thank the organizers and I thank the management for giving this opportunity. And I conclude my talk with this and wish everyone a happy, successful Ramadan and Eid, and continue your successfulness in your studies as well. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.